Welcome to this explainer. Today we're stepping into something wonderfully uncanny. We are exploring a graphic novel-style dark myth of the mind. It's a psychological fable that essentially forces us to look right at the very edges of our own control. I'll be your guide as we navigate this twisted corridor of shadows and cracked stone, and together we're going to unpack the terrifying, yet ultimately incredibly liberating, breakdown of a god-king. So, let's dive right in.
Ich bin ein Teil von jener Kraft, die stets das Böse will und stets das Gute schafft. Translated, that means, I am part of that power which eternally wills evil and eternally works good. It's a legendary line from Goethe's Faust, spoken by Mephistopheles, and it absolutely nails the thematic stage for our fable. It perfectly establishes the paradoxical nature of the figure we are going to meet today, the jester. It's this profound reminder that sometimes the exact forces that seem to bring chaos and destruction are literally the very same forces required to build something entirely new, something fundamentally good.
Section 1. The Architect's Iron Cage. The Limit of Static Control.
Okay, let me introduce you to our protagonist. This is Wotan, the Wanderer. He is a mighty king walking down a road of cracked stone, a road that he paved himself with his ancient runes of law. Every single step he takes is an echo of 1,000 legislated tomorrows. But, as we know, order always has a breaking point. We call this the weeping masonry. Wotan's rigid laws, which were intended to provide safety and structure, have slowly and uncannily morphed into an iron cage. He looks around and realizes his entire life's work. This so-called kingdom of calculated equilibrium isn't a triumph at all. It is merely a desperate metaphor. It's a giant, heavy construct designed specifically to hide the empty void underneath it.
What makes this myth so fascinating is how deeply it roots itself in psychology. Wotan represents the ego, right? The conscious mind that aggressively tries to manage and dictate reality. But the Wanderer has hit the absolute limit of his static control. He looks down into the cracks of the earth, using them as a kind of stone mirror, and what does he see? He doesn't see a path forward. He sees a tomb reflecting his own exhausted despair. He is a god completely haunted by the ghost of his own rigid creation.
Section 2. The Shadow in Sapphire. The uncanny jester sits among lords.
Right at this moment of absolute, crushing despair, at the crossroads of his mind, someone is waiting for the exhausted king, the sapphire jester. Imagine this figure stepping right out of that dark crossroad. Now, this isn't some external demon, it's something much closer to home. You see, every jester who survives long enough gets a scepter. It's a tool to hold when speaking truth right into the teeth of comfort. And this particular scepter, it's crowned with a stone gargoyle so dark it actually absorbs the light around it. It wears a miniature motley, tiny bells, and a cap with 2 pointed horns, not the traditional 3. And the most unsettling part is that it's not decorative at all. When gripped in the dark, it physically warms in the hand with an unnatural, ancient, and honestly terrible life. It is a doubled thing. It looks ridiculous on the surface, but it's deeply terrifying underneath.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what the jester represents, the Jungian shadow. The sapphire jester is a literal personification of the king's own suppressed unconscious desires. Hiding behind a pristine porcelain mask and a wide, frozen grin, the jester tempts the king. He offers him the ultimate narcotic, a quiet sapphire sleep. It's the promise of a beautiful release from the incredibly heavy, painful duty of just being conscious.
To truly understand the stakes here, we have to look at these two forces in direct opposition. On one side, we have the Wanderer, the architect of law. He is the static ego, burdened by consciousness, carrying the fire of survival under a tattered, incredibly heavy woolen cloak. He is just so exhausted. On the other side, we have the sapphire jester, the shadow archetype. He represents the sweet, starless blue void, the absolute temptation of non-being, all hidden behind that flawless porcelain mask. It is the ultimate primal battle between the painful burden of existence and the sweet relief of finally letting go.
Section 3. The Sacred Frenzy Awakens. The Shattered Hollow Self.
When initially confronted with the stone mirror and the jester's offer, Wotan is struck by a paralyzing temptation of the void. He is so tired, the cage is so heavy. For an agonizing moment, the exhausted king almost completely surrenders to the beautiful release of non-being. But the absolute crux of this myth is what happens next. Wotan does not surrender. Instead, he undergoes a profound, violent ontological revolt. He violently rejects the cold numbness and instead embraces something called Wut, a sacred alchemical frenzy. It is an explosive rejection of giving up.
He violently awakens his fire of survival, flat out refusing to just fade away into the sapphire's sleep.
Crack! Shatter! With immense raw intensity, Wotan slams his heavy staff down. He strikes out and completely shatters the jester's flawless porcelain mask. And what does he find underneath all that temptation? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just empty, hollow darkness.
The truth is finally revealed. The jester was never a true master. He was simply a parasite feeding on the weary. He was a hollow archetype, a manifestation of the void that only ever manages to grow when the true spirit of creation is suffocated by rigid, unbending laws. That pristine mask was just mimicking a joy the Wanderer had buried a long, long time ago.
Section 4. Birth of the Dancing Star. From static stone to pure potential.
Now, this is where the ultimate philosophical subversion takes place. Wotan doesn't just destroy the shadow so he can go back to being a rigid king in an iron cage. Returning to that old life? That's impossible now. Instead, he reaches the psychological pinnacle of our story, Jungian individuation. It is the absolute triumph of becoming over merely being. Wotan commits the ultimate act of the overman. He realizes that if his world of rules must break, well, he is going to be the one to break it. By taking the jester's raw, unlegislated chaos and actually integrating it, he forms a totally new, unbroken self. Though to be clear, the mask of his own persona, his old kingship, is now permanently cracked, forever etched with lines of sapphire light.
We can actually trace this alchemical journey of the dancing star in 3 distinct steps. Step 1 was the initial paralysis, where the exhausted god faced that intense temptation of the void. Step 2 was the ontological revolt, where he flat out rejected the numbness and embraced the sacred frenzy, wood. And finally, step 3, the triumphant becoming. He integrates the chaos. He officially transitions from a petrified static god into a dancing star of pure unbridled potential.
To really grasp the massive magnitude of this shift, just look at how the protagonist has transformed. He started as the architect of law. He was the ruler of masonry, totally trapped in a static, petrified ego, locked in an iron cage of his own geometry. But he leaves that corridor a fundamentally different being. He is now the agent of chaos. He is the master of the abyss. He represents a storm of pure potential, fully experiencing the beautiful relief of letting go. He is the unbroken overman who smiles, not because he defeated some external monster, but because he literally birthed the storm from the ashes of his own rigidity.
The old geometry has completely dissolved. The rigid laws are gone, replaced by the dancing star. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question from the jester himself. Look into your own stone mirror. What parts of your own static stone, your own rigid, self-imposed rules, must you shatter to finally embrace the storm of becoming? Thank you so much for joining me on this psychological journey. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.